One of the saddest stories you'll ever hear. 12-year-old kid killed because a cop broke protocol and did a pit maneuver against an entire family, basically. Let's show the picture of this 12-year-old young man who was killed. Leading Boykins. This happened in Georgia. 12-year-old boy was killed in a vehicle crash that occurred when a Georgia state trooper used a pit maneuver to end a high-speed chase. It gets deeper. The young man was a passenger in the car being driven by his neighbor, a 35-year-old Charlie Moore. They were close, the family was close, while Georgia state troopers chased the vehicle on September 10th. That gives you some background. Now, I also partially blame the driver. Don't miss that, okay? I do. I also blame those who took an oath to protect and serve. I also blame the cop who engaged against this car contrary to department standard and protocol. And now a 12-year-old kid is dead. I'm gonna give you background. Mr. Moore, along with his young son, were giving Boykins a ride home when they were pulled over at 1 a.m. for speeding. However, Mr. Moore refused to lower his driver window or produce any type of identification. That's according to the police statement, okay? The unnamed trooper called for assistance and a deputy responded and broke Moore's window. Moore, a black male, allegedly told authorities he was a sovereign citizen and drove away and led police on the chase. Moore was reportedly afraid of what the encounter with the police might turn into and tried to call 911 during the chase so sheriffs could intervene. It gets deeper. The pursuit continued, okay? At a high rate of speed, and the driver was driving recklessly, that's according to the report. The trooper terminated the chase by using the pursuit immobilization technique or pit maneuver. The Kia exited the roadway and overturned in a ditch. The rear seat passenger was unrestrained and suffered fatal injuries, okay? Moore and his 14-year-old son were treated for minor injuries. During the chase, Moore was on the phone with 911 saying, "I am afraid. I'm afraid for my life," he told the dispatcher. "They need to get them off me right now," the driver said, "because I'm scared. I got my kids with me right now." After the car was forced off the road, you can hear Moore screaming at the young man who was dead. He died of those injuries. The Georgia State Patrol, they brought murder charges against the driver. I have no beef with that, by the way, at least not right now. The beef I have is why have you not brought murder charges against the cop? According to Georgia State Patrol's chase policy, let's put that chase policy up. Troopers are supposed to consider several variables when doing the pit maneuver, including if children are in the car, and must consider several methods of stopping a vehicle before performing a pit maneuver. No evidence of that happened. The family said that no one from law enforcement notified them that there had been a crash, and they are not sure who identified this 12-year-old's body. Okay? You have an adult named Charlie Moore making an unwise decision, bad decision. He may have been in fear for his life. I still don't think it was the right move, but we absolutely know that what the cop did was against policy. That's the absolute wrong move. You do not do a pit maneuver of a vehicle that you are aware that children are inside of. That is reckless disregard for life. That is a criminal issue. No, that's not what Georgia says. Doc, how do you see this?
You know, it's such a tragedy on so many levels. I'm actually writing a book right now about a case very similar to this, and so I have a lot of thoughts, more than we can go into today. But first of all, let me just say there's much more to this story than what we know. But I will say, just based on what we know, there are all these layers, right? On one hand, the driver doesn't roll down his window, and then interestingly claims sovereign citizenship, which we can talk a lot more about that, but that means something very particular. It's something that has white supremacist history, but also history of kind of, a kind of fascist politics history. So why did he claim sovereign citizenship? Why didn't he roll down his window? Those factors, that's part number one. Then part number two is, I can just tell you that you're exactly right. Cops stopped doing high-speed chases, and it's against policy, certainly here in Tennessee where I am, and pretty much across the country, for this exact reason, right? The yield of a high-speed chase was it wasn't like in the movies where you get Smokey and the Bandit or something like that. There were accidents in high-speed chases, innocent motorists, children, pedestrians. So police stopped doing maneuvers like this pretty much across the board. And the other thing is you can track the cars from helicopters. There's other ways to do it. And ultimately the last part, of course, is the ultimate innocent victim, just a kid who was just picking up a ride home, didn't have any part of this. And ultimately, that's the ultimate tragedy is, just that a young person's life has been ended because of these reckless actions.
Something I say all the time, Doc. You can have a policy in writing, but if you have culture that's adversarial to that policy, culture will eat policy alive any day. So they have the right policy in writing. They say you can't do this, according to the state troopers in Georgia. They got it in writing, but the culture is antithetical to what's on paper.